Today we're looking at the rod and piston combination that I'll be using in my race engine. So, I had my friend Andrew at Nitto use a design that was pre-existing and we modified it. So this is a CP piston to suit 20 valve, 11:1 compression ratio with the comp height that I'm running on my gudgeon pin. As you can see here, grooves between the top ring and the top, these are called anti-detonation grooves. I have pin forced oilers. So from the oil control ring, there is a hole drilled down to my gudgeon pin, which is what's called pin forced oilers. This is a heavy duty casting, so heavy duty forging rather. So if you look under the side of here, you will see that this is all forged. But this is a standard forging process and they machine the piston out to suit. This is what's called a heavy duty, or CP's heavy duty range of forging. So between all of my gudgeon pin positions here, it's quite thick. There's a lot of material here. The crown thickness, the distance between here and the top, is quite thick. So we have all these features to make a strong piston. On this particular piston, I increased the size of the exhaust valve reliefs, because of those particular valves that I spoke of earlier that I'll be using. So a combination with that is a heavy duty gudgeon pin. So this is the biggest gudgeon pin that I could get for this engine. So the wall thickness, you need a thick wall thickness for high powered application, because I have seen gudgeon pins shear and it is unbelievable how smooth they cut. It's like a laser cut through these things. When a gudgeon splits, you can pull it out in 3 pieces and it is beautifully cut, and it is literally from the piston just pulling away from the rod. Unbelievable. And finally, here we have a billet I-beam. These are made in Australia. These are the highest quality.
This is a custom rod, is it?
This is from Argo. So these guys are actually based in New South Wales. They do a lot of racing ski boat stuff. They do custom rods. This was an off-the-shelf product that they had a long time ago, and not a lot of people buy these because they are blisteringly expensive. Yeah, I managed to pick up a set. One year they had a sale on, and those rods just happened to be sitting there. I actually unwrapped one of them recently from its packaging, and Nikki Webster was performing at the 2000 Olympics when these rods were made.
That's what was on the newspaper in the packaging?
That was on the newspaper.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's how old the rod is, but the metal in this is all Australian to the highest standard. Beautiful machine quality, unbelievable quality in these. They come at, when you pull one of these rods out of an engine after a period of use, they measure perfectly, no deformation in them whatsoever. You know, it's hard to say that about other brands of connecting rods, but yeah, these are just really high quality stuff. So yeah, like you say, I wouldn't have been able to purchase them unless the sale was on, because I'll tell you what, they're unbelievably expensive. So yeah, that is the piston rod combination I'll be using in the Turbo 20 valve, the next one.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
So the old motor was spinning to 10,000. This new motor that we've got right next to us here, how much were you going to think about spinning to that one?
This one I'll spin to about 10.5.
10.5?
Yeah.
And then when you go for the 7A with the custom crank, what were you thinking?
12.
12, wow.
000, yeah.
Wow, nice.
So again, I don't know whether that'll be a wet or dry sump. It'll probably be dry sump at that point.
Yep.
I'd love to do it wet sump to see if it was possible. But like you say, it's about keeping the oil in the sump, and at 12,000 RPM, the amount of cycles, the amount of oil that you're moving, it'd be very difficult to keep the oil in the sump.
Yep.
Mind you, the car will have an AccuSump in it. It's mounted in the car now. I just have to plumb it in. And yeah, the AccuSump will be helpful. But again, the amount of time that you would see that sort of RPM is very small.
Yeah, right.
In a drag racing application, not a lot of time spent. Like you do see it, but in a car that's supposed to be going 10 seconds or less, you're not seeing 12,000 RPM for a long period of time. Again, in a street car, how often do you honestly think that you can hit 12,000 RPM on the street?
Yeah,
some
very
people say,
rarely.
oh, you know, I drive the car. If you actually look at a data log of someone who claims to rape their car on the street, the amount of time they spend at wide open throttle is next to nothing. So, you know, that's
just the nature of the beast. When you're on the street, you haven't got much choice.
No, you don't have a lot of space. You're breaking the law very, very quickly, and you know you're risking a lot on the street. The difference between the street and a racetrack is some people like an engine, like a Formula Atlantic engine, will have what's called an engine life of 10 hours. People freak out and they go, 10 hours? That's 10 hours at wide open throttle. So the Motecs and the ECUs that were running on those ECUs would basically be timing the second that they hit wide open throttle, a timer would start and add on to. So the second that you're off wide open throttle, the timer stops. But every time you hit wide open throttle, the timer starts counting again. And at 10 hours, the engine's hourred out.
Yep.
So 10 hours is an insane amount of time to be at wide open throttle. That is absurd. That would take probably 2 seasons of racing to do.
Yeah.
Depending on how much racing you do, obviously.
Yeah.
So when someone says 10 hours, that's ridiculous, you know. But in a street car, 10 hours would take you a hell of a long time to do.
Right.
A hell of a long time.
Yeah. How about your breather? So with this new motor, you've just got a -10 fitting on your valve cover.
Yeah.
Are you going to be running anything other than that? Or
so on the 20 valves, I blank off the rear port here. I make an interference bung that fits there.
Yep.
I weld on the dash breather here, and then on the inside here, where the factory baffle tray went, I'll be making an alloy baffle tray that just goes in here with a couple of dimpled holes in the bottom. That's basically it. I shouldn't need much more than that in the way of breathing, because I do have the breather on the side of the block. So on the side of the block, I have that breather, which will bleed out the crankcase pressure straight into the catch can.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so it'll equalise the pressure between top and bottom of the block, allowing the oil just to drain down, because obviously the pressure is coming from the crankcase up the sides through the drain ports. This is a breather here, this is a drain port, and this is a drain port and a 4A. This is a breather. So that all the crankcase pressure comes up this side, across to this side of the head, and then out the rocker cover.
Yeah.
If I can drain from here, here, and here, and this is a breather, and I also have a breather on the crankcase down very low, the crankcase pressure doesn't really have a chance to blow the oil that's draining down back up into the rocker cover, because that's what's happening. The crankcase pressurizes, it pushes all the oil up in a gaseous form, and that goes out the breather port.
Yeah.
So if I don't give that a chance, we're okay.
Well, that'll be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and unfortunately that's all the footage I have of Matt's 800 horsepower build. As we mentioned earlier, it is a bit of a long-term build, and this is the stage that Matt's currently up to now. But on a more positive note, we are currently filming a new series on Matt's 400 horsepower setup that's currently in his car, where he's just fixing a rusty valve so he can get the thing running again and start taking it to the track. So if you've enjoyed Matt's 800 horsepower build so far, now's the time to get into the comments section, light a fire under his ass so he can get this thing done sooner rather than later. We all want to see this thing running, so let's all get into that comment section and give him a bit of a roast up. So anyway, guys, hit that thumbs up and that notification bell if you're interested in seeing the next series on Matt's 400 horsepower setup, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.